Hi everyone, it's Rebecca, and I'm sorry for the delay and the technical difficulties that we've had this morning in regards to this webinar. So I apologise, and I hope I haven't kept you waiting, and let's just get started then. Okay, so today's webinar is on the topic of AAC, and in particular we're looking at the aspects related to social media and generally about connectivity in AAC. My background is that I'm a speech and language therapist based in the UK, and have been working in this field for quite a number of years. More recently, I've started Therapy Box, and we develop apps in this area. So it's of both professional interest and a commercial interest for me as well, to be honest. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about it, but let me tell you a little more, as I said, about Therapy Box, just to give you a little context. We're a UK-based company, and you may have seen some of our apps before, Predictable, or seen and heard perhaps. That's our team here in London. So I'm sure many of you are very familiar with social media, but to just level the playing field and be sure that we're all up to speed. In general, when we use the term social media, we're talking about a way of sharing content in real time, regardless of location, and regardless of platform that somebody's using, as in device that they're using. So it's a great way of connecting, and I think for a lot of AAC users, it really presents some opportunities that perhaps we haven't addressed before, or that it really opens up new ways where people using AAC can communicate without the barriers that they face perhaps in face-to-face communication. So as I said, social media really can be a more inclusive platform for everyone. When you send a tweet, you don't know how somebody's typing that or how they're composing their message, you know, whether they're using a switch, whether they're using a special keyboard. You know, you only see the end product. So I think in a way, social media it can be very inclusive. And with recent adaptations and a lot of the enhancements in that, users can interact no matter what the need, without the need to physically speak. So, you know, it's a very real-time communication that we all use, that's mostly text-based, but also picture-based, photo-based. And so if somebody doesn't have the ability to speak, it really can be, as I keep saying, a very level playing field. It's also very relevant because I think a lot of AAC devices, and particularly apps lately, are integrating social media access, which is fantastic, and a great way of taking the function and the features of that app or that AAC program and pushing the boundaries as to how the communication can be output. And I think social media is really relevant to AAC users, and this is sort of personal feedback that I've gathered, is that it really is a great way for forming friendships, for social interaction, because for many people who use AAC, and certainly not everybody, but for a large percentage of people who use AAC, there can be other reasons why someone might be isolated, whether that's because of physical restrictions or restrictions due to a health condition, and so on. And so being able to communicate online really does open those doors for somebody. So there's a few ways that social media can be accessed by somebody who uses AAC. In some cases, the access to something like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram is integrated already into an AAC device, whether that, as I said, a more traditional device or on an app. And so when the app developer creates the access, they find ways or shortcuts or efficiencies that fit in with the way that the user is using the communication device side of the app, and bouncing off that to then create access into a social media platform. Of course, the benefit of, for example, using iOS scanning on an iPad or some of the Android accessibility modules means that you can get around the whole device and many apps using the scanning that's inbuilt on the app. And that means accessing programs not just in the AAC app, but on the device, so a regular Twitter app or a Facebook app, using the accessibility frameworks that are built into either to the iPad, the iPhone, or an Android device. So that means that we're able to use things such as a head mouse, or something like a Tracker Pro, or iGaze to access social media. So something that we perhaps thought might have been a challenge 2 or 3 years ago is now very easy and accessible for a larger group of people. So I think we now have a number of options available to us, which really does make a huge difference. So as I said, we're thinking about how somebody can use different social media channels and platforms using AAC, or how people who use AAC can also use these social media channels using alternative access methods, because it's really becoming such a huge way that we're all communicating. I'm sure if I had done a poll as to which of the social media channels that you're using, that we would have seen very high percentage of usage. We know, for example, that among all American adults aged over 18, the percentage of people that use Facebook is 58%, 23% are using LinkedIn, 19% are using Twitter. So it's by enabling people who use AAC access to these social media programs, we're ensuring that they're communicating with 50% of people in their age group, for example. And of course, as I'm sure you've seen in lots of articles and in the media, the number of users of these social media channels is astonishing. If you're thinking about 1.19 billion active users of Facebook, I'm sure you'll agree that, I'm sure it's more than that now. It really is allowing people to tap into a huge community of people that they might not have been able to do before. So from an app developer's perspective, we now certainly have the expectation from people who use our apps that they expect social media access, that people expect that an app should be able to talk to Twitter or to Facebook, or that you should be able to compose your message using AAC and share it socially. So I think that very much it's not just a nice to have and an additional feature that we as an app developer can add on as a marketing feature or a good PR, but it's something that people expect to have. And it's very much the way that, as we saw in the previous slide, that people are communicating. From that developer's perspective, I think we also take into consideration that it really does make it easier, for example, to use everything from the one app. So to give you an example, one of our apps is called Predictable. It's used a great deal by people with ALS. And if they have associated difficulties with using their hands or their limbs, it can be quite a bit of work to switch in and out of an app. So from moving from predictable, then going and opening Facebook, or going from predictable and then opening Twitter, requires quite a bit of physical effort and also time to switch between those two programs. So by embedding the ability to send a tweet or to update your Facebook status from directly within the app really does make it easier. And because sending out your message from within an app, you can use the mode of message composition that you find works for you. So to give you another example, in Predictable we have the phrase bank. So you may have a whole lot of phrases that you use all the time or comments that you've pre-prepared. So you can just upload those if you wanted to, or if you've worked your way through and the word prediction is picking up on the things that you're saying that day. So for example, last week in the UK we were all talking about the solar eclipse that happened. So if that had been your topical conversation that you've been having using your AAC device, that content and those words are going to be primed in your word prediction. So then being able to tweet about it or to update your Facebook status means that you benefit from drawing on the vocabulary and the recent vocabulary of your AAC system. So in that sense, we really think about how someone can benefit from the efficiencies and the features of their AAC device and extend that really to what's become an essential means of communication, social media. And as I said, it's about how you can use that via scanning. And of course, as I said, you can scan through the iPad or an Android tablet using the inbuilt accessibility framework. And definitely the feedback we've had is that the scanning, so the native scanning within our app tends to be a little easier for many people with movement disorders. So you do also benefit from having that specialist access method available. And it provides a new way to people to communicate. It's not unusual for me to hear from people who are using our apps to say, well, actually, I hadn't used Twitter before. I needed to use Predictable. And then while I was using Predictable, I thought, oh, what's this all about? And then to go and discover what Twitter's all about and to get involved and to find that it's another outlet for communication. And as I said, I think more and more, if people are finding that they're physically isolated due to their either location or their situation to do with their illness or their disability, that social media channel really is a benefit and something that somebody may not realize that they need before they buy the app or download an app, but something that they investigate as they go along. So, one of the benefits that I think perhaps we might not have thought about originally sorry, just going back, there we go, is that also by interacting online and tweeting and retweeting and using Facebook, that's also going to influence the vocabulary that you're using both within an app. Sorry, we're having all sorts of technical difficulties today. There we go, back to the slide. So some of the real benefits are that you're able to access and use language in a different way. So, I don't know, but when I'm tweeting, I use a different style of communicating than when I would be speaking or emailing. So it gives me an opportunity to express myself in a different way. And the same absolutely stands for people who use AAC. So by composing a message to be spoken aloud to somebody in the same room versus composing a message to make a comment about a political situation, we're going to use quite different language. it may be a great opportunity to work on using formal versus informal language, different styles of communication, and really provide an opportunity for perhaps exploring language in a way that traditional AAC devices and use may not have presented. Certainly important factors to consider, and I think particularly for younger or more vulnerable people using AAC, issues around privacy, data protection, and online safety. So it's important to think about, to continue to think about security and password protection. Of course, limiting access to web pages that may not be suitable, blocking certain features using guided access or using the restrictions on, for example, on an iPad. That's possible. So even though there might be access to, say, Twitter in an app, if on the iPad Twitter is blocked, the app can't, Predictable, for example, wouldn't be able to go to Twitter itself if that was blocked in the settings on the iPad. It's also an option perhaps to buddy up with a family or a caregiver to have help in exploring social media, to understand how it's used, the rules of social media and the nuances of social media, and also the risks of social media, the potential challenges that somebody might have in terms of understanding whether friending somebody on Facebook is a good idea or not, or what comments to share. Of course, if somebody has a cognitive impairment, it may be difficult to always know what information to reveal, what to not reveal, questions to ask, what is suitable to post. All of those questions and issues that come up in regards to social media for all of us, I think are also there for people who are using AAC. And of course, I think a lot of, for example, in my previous caseload, a lot of clients were particularly vulnerable on social media because of their underlying cognitive and social difficulties that they've had. And really, this was a fantastic way, as a speech therapist, to work on communication skills in a very, very practical way where you could try things out and test out ideas before actually posting to social media. So I think it provides speech pathologists with a really nice real-time way to work on social and pragmatic skills, and also look at some of the risks associated with online communication. At the moment, a lot of the social media in AAC apps is limited to Facebook and Twitter, but of course, if you think about other online communication, Skype is much more possible, and as is iMessaging, email's pretty standard. We have the ability, for example, in Predictable and Chattable to use Skype to make a call, which is great, so you're able to find your contact in the AAC device, either by picture or by name, and then call out using the device, and then you're able to compose your message either using the text-to-speech in Predictable or the symbols in Chattable to be able to communicate, which has really been a leap forward, I think. In our apps, so with Facebook and Twitter, you can post directly to either Facebook and Twitter. So you can send an information out. One of the things you can't do is then go back and read your posts or read what other people are posting within the app. And that's a limitation from Facebook and Twitter. There's really not too much we can do to work around that. And I think that's probably the biggest hurdle that as app developers we need to cross next. And we hope that that will be possible. As I said, in terms of connectivity, we're now able to send messages using iMessage on iDevices, which is fantastic. So that means that people in Chattable, for example, can send a message to their friends and their family on iPhone, and you can do that on iPads now, which makes things much easier. Of course, you do need to have internet access to do that. So just to wrap up, and I'm conscious of the time, so we know that social media really is a way of enhancing inclusion for people who use AAC. Social media is the norm. It's really opening up other realms of communication for people. It's promoting opportunities that perhaps weren't there before, to both explore language and style of communication opportunities, but also to interact with people perhaps with the same disability, or who have a similar interest on other matters as well. And that social media accessibility is really being made all the easier through the accessibility frameworks that are being built into devices themselves. So there's our contact details in case you have any particular questions that we can answer afterwards. I apologise for the delayed start due to the technical difficulties we were having this morning. So I hope that even with a bit of a quicker run through than normal, that you managed to catch the main points and that it was interesting. And thank you very much to AAC for attending. And as you can see, the social media team there also contact at AAC, you can do so. So let us know if you have any questions. I'll be online for a couple of minutes now if there are any questions that you have. And thank you all, and have a good rest of the day.